Hey horror fans, welcome back to another review. And this is a film I actually sought out on YouTube. The whole film is on YouTube. It came out in 2012. I redboxed it back when it first came out. Really enjoyed it then. And I think it was because I had just watched Sinister, and there's a minor supporting role by Vincent D'Onofrio in that. I was like, oh, he's the main antagonist in this film. I want to check that out again. It is 2012's Chained, which is a psychological thriller directed by Jennifer Lynch, who is the daughter of David Lynch. She had another film called Boxing Helena in the 90s, which I never saw. And yeah, I mean, it made on a. I guess this is a micro budget. I mean, $700,000, and throughout most of the film is pretty much Vincent D'Onofrio and this guy Eamon Farren, who's an Australian actor who was 27 at the time, but he's playing like I'm guessing a 19-year-old. But yeah, so 2012 Canadian psychological thriller. Basically, you have this woman and her 9-year-old son. Who was the husband? Because the husband was in the Dawn of the Dead remake. Jake Weber. He was the guy that worked at Best Buy, sort of the ringleader of everyone. Yep, he was in Dawn of the Dead. He's the husband. He says he can't go to the movies with him. So this mother and this 9-year-old, they go to the movies. They get out, they take a cab, and the cab driver is played by Vincent D'Onofrio. He doesn't take them to where they say. They realize they're being abducted. They go out pretty much to the middle of nowhere in his house. He parks in his garage, and he drags the mother out into the house and kills her. And he takes a 9-year-old boy, tells him he's going to live with him, and he's going to, pretty much be his slave and servant. He's like, whenever you hear this sound, means I'm bringing another one home. You have 10 seconds to get these locks unlocked. You will eat when I eat, so whatever's left is what you get. Sort of a don't speak unless spoken to, don't get out of line kind of deal. And at one point, the 9-year-old boy, who we don't even know his name, but D'Onofrio calls him Rabbit. He renames him Rabbit. Rabbit escapes, but he makes it to like the roof of a shed. And when D'Onofrio finally gets him down, he chains him to this cot in the kitchen. And then we get a brief scene of how, he unlocks the door, he fixes dinner. D'Onofrio will sit in the living room in his chair watching TV. The kid will sit on the floor, sort of between his feet. And little sort of niceties that he does, like he'll tap him on the shoulder with a candy bar and give him a candy bar. And then we jump, I'm guessing 10 years later, where now it's this kid, this guy, Eamon Farren. And he's this tall, skinny, malnourished looking guy, barely speaks, essentially has the mind of a 9-year-old. But it's at this point, D'Onofrio wants to take him under his wing and groom him to be like him. In fact, there's one scene where D'Onofrio picks up this teenage son and his father, and the father is just really giving his son shit. Like, you are nothing. You're nothing special. And D'Onofrio is having these flashbacks. He keeps having flashbacks and nightmares to this traumatizing period where I'm guessing his father forced him to rape and kill this woman, which I've read and heard some people say it was his own mother. I don't know how true that is. But, it kind of sparks some sort of resentment and want to be like a father figure to Rabbit. So he gives him a gift, which is this book, and then he gets more books on human anatomy. Because he talks about how of ignorance is uselessness and education is everything. And he wants him, eventually, if you're going to do what I do, you got to know how the human body works. Which Rabbit takes to. I mean, he starts studying these books. He really gets into it. D'Onofrio will quiz him, like he'll have body parts on the table from his latest victims. And he'll kind of, quiz him somehow. And he'll give him an answer. He's not always quick to answer D'Onofrio, who, I guess I'd call him Bob. His character's name is Bob. Which, I do want to say, because I haven't mentioned it yet, the performances, I think, are flawless. Very well done. The kid, you can tell he's very traumatized. When he doesn't answer or react, you're guessing it's because he might have, one, he's underdeveloped. He's like an 18, 19-year-old who hasn't had any kind of real rearing or education since he was 9. So he's very underdeveloped. But it shows that he's smart and able to learn. But you're guessing he might have said the wrong thing a couple times, and he's been corrected. And D'Onofrio, he's able to be creepy and intimidating, but for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, he's got some kind of accent. It's like a mixture of, I want to say, some sort of Eastern European or almost Russian. I'm not entirely sure what he's going for. Sometimes it sounds laughable, but it could also be the things he's saying. But, like, other than the accent, his performance is very solid. He's creepy, intimidating, and, he fits that role of just a rapist serial killer fine enough that I don't know if the accent is to throw us off from the twist at the end, which I know is polarizing. But, Rabbit is dead set against not killing. He doesn't want to kill. He brings this drunk girl home and he tries to get him to kill her. He won't budge. At one point, he gets a newer yearbook. And at several points, he tries to make her to find something he likes, and he won't even open it. He literally has to, push his head against the book with a knife in his hand to get him to pick one. Which it lands on this girl named Angie. And one thing I'll say is the midsection of this film does seem kind of redundant, because it's mostly just scenes about, I mean, you do sort of get some scenes where they play this game because he has Rabbit fix a scrapbook of all articles about his crimes. He wants him to organize that as the papers come. And collect the driver's licenses of all his victims. So they play this game where they deal out a handful of driver's licenses, and they'll say the name of a person, and then they have to guess. The other person has to guess like the address and their birth date and something D'Onofrio has said about them. Like, one person that Rabbit guesses correctly, he guesses their address and apartment number, their birth date, and he says, and you told me that she was honest about her weight. So you do get scenes like that are interesting, but it's mostly about trying to get him to either go through with some sort of killing or pick someone out in a yearbook. I would have liked maybe some more scenes throughout the years. Like, okay, we have a 9-year-old actor or a younger actor playing the 9-year-old. Maybe a few more scenes with him. Maybe a couple scenes with someone kind of in the middle. And then this current guy. And maybe just like a different variety of scenes instead, because I get he's trying to groom him, which this is, I was thinking it was kind of similar, and I would say a better made film than a Bereavement with Alexandra Daddario, which is a prequel to Malevolence. But Bereavement is kind of the same thing. You have a young boy, he's even younger, being kidnapped by a serial killer, except this boy is not really responsive and he can't feel physical pain. So the guy thinks he's this special, almost godlike child, and he's trying to groom him to become a serial killer, and eventually he is. Here, though, I like how Rabbit is dead set against killing, because it sets up for interesting scenes. Whereas D'Onofrio goes out to get the girl he picked from the yearbook, and he puts them alone in the bedroom. He takes his shackle off, because he even says, you know, once you start killing, I can take your shackle off. Maybe we can go out sometime. We can leave the house. We can work out some freedom deal. So this girl named Angie, and she notices that Rabbit is, he even says, I've been here since I was 9, but he doesn't even know how old he is. And, you know, she knows that he is this sympathetic, non-threatening person. She even agrees to have sex with him and tries to get him to have sex with her. She even says, you know, asks if he's ever touched a girl, and he looks at her terrified. He's like, no. And I do like this line, because she says, you know, you could touch me all you want. I could show you how my body works. So obviously she means sexually, but since he's been studying these medical and anatomy books, he's just like, I don't really know how your body works. And eventually they start kissing and touching, and then that's when Bob comes back in, which Rabbit has a knife, and he panics and he stabs her in the abdomen. And he yells at Bob to leave him alone. And actually, another reason why Bob did it is because at one point he's watching TV, and Rabbit asks him why he does what he does. He's like, why do you do what you do? And he says, because you make me. And he's like, there you go, they make me. He's like, they didn't ask to be killed. He's like, he starts yelling at him. He's like, yes, they did, the day they were born. And he was like, you know, they seem like good people to me. And keeps yelling at him like they're whores, they're all sluts, they all deserve it. And then he's not only saying he has to finally learn how to kill, but he's also got to get laid. He's got to get laid because his head's getting fucked up. But at the same time, the taste of a woman, he says either smell, taste, or feel, I can't remember, is like no other. So he talks like that, but they're all sluts and whores. And you're probably wondering, how's he been doing this for so long that Rabbit's mother is the only one that's ever had a child? That plays into the twist. So after he drags Angie into the room where they dispose of the bodies, they bury them. He's like, well, congratulations, you graduated. He gets him a suit. He even gets him a chair so he doesn't have to sit on the floor. He takes him out to go hunting. And there's like a glass bus stop that they're parked in front of. And he sees that Rabbit wrote help, and I think in lipstick, on the side of the car. That pisses him off. And we know that Bob films all his activities. Rabbit didn't know that he filmed his with Angie. So Bob knows he didn't really kill her. And on the way back, we get a flashback that he stabbed her in such a way that he thinks he missed her vital organs and she'll survive. And he put her in the crawl space with a flashlight and a box cutter in case he was to go down there. And it almost would have been fine if the movie ended there. Spoiler alert. Well, okay, before I really say the spoiler, because you could probably figure this what the film was working up to. Him finally killing Bob and being free. But yeah, this is a very good character study. I would say I think it's also playing with the nature against nurture kind of concept, because we get the idea that Bob was made this way through trauma and abuse, and with everything that Rabbit's been through, he's still refusing to rape and kill or do any harm to people. So I like how it plays with that concept. Some people might say, because I've heard this get thrown around a bit loosely with horror films, it gets in the mind of a killer. Just because you're seeing someone kill on screen doesn't really mean you're getting in the mind of a killer. People are saying that about like Rob Zombie's Halloween or any slasher film. Not quite. Because this isn't an extensive look at how or why. It just hints that he's suffered trauma from abuse and now he is this way. It doesn't really go into it. But I do like how it sort of touches upon nature versus nurture. So yeah, him and Angie fight back against Bob. He buries Bob in the crawl space. He puts his scrapbook over the mound. He puts all these papers out, I'm guessing for people to find. And he comes across something. And then we see him arriving at his father's place, who is now remarried and has another son. Again, Jake Weber from the Dawn of the Dead remake. His new wife is Gina Phillips. Trish from Jeepers Creepers. And at first, the dad's just like, I don't know who you are. Like, am I supposed to know who you are? And he says these things that makes it click. He's like, Tim? Tim, is that you? Like, come inside, my son. Where have you been? But then, because we learn his name is Tim, he pulls out this envelope with pictures of him and his mother in a letter saying, you paid your older brother to abduct us, essentially, to get rid of us. And, you know, that's why you urged us to take a taxi that day from the movies, because you couldn't come. And I'm guessing that's why D'Onofrio has an accent, because we get the idea that his the Tim or Rabbit's father was part of the abuse that Bob went through, but I still don't understand the accent. I'm guessing it was only there to throw us off. Could be wrong, but yeah, you know, he gets defensive. He starts, you know, beating Tim, and then Gina Phillips gets involved. He starts beating her. Tim hits him in the head, kills him. She lets him go. She calls the cops. She says it's a burglar. And the ending, I don't 100% get what it's trying to say. Because he goes back to Bob's house. He hits the garage door opener. It opens. The taxi's still in there. And he goes in. Then the end credits start to roll. But we hear him do some stuff. Sounds like he's cutting paper or cutting something. Then we hear the door open again, and we hear the taxi drive out. I don't quite know what that ending's trying to say. I know the twist has really... the movie itself has been polarizing. Some people saw it as just a misogynistic, disgusting film. Other people saw it as, you know, a great psychological thriller. Someone, I can't remember who it was, even commented how this look at a psychopath's misogyny and despicable acts towards women has never been done in such a visceral, believable way in a film directed by a woman since American Psycho, which was directed by Mary Herron. Even though American Psycho is not a horror film, I will say that. It's a dark comedy. So I don't, but as unseen as the twist was coming, I didn't see it coming the first time I saw it. I was kind of like, wow, okay. I don't think the film really needed it. It didn't kill the film for me. It was just kind of, you really could have just ended it with him, you know, getting away from Bob. I think it would have been more interesting to show Rabbit trying to function in society after. You know, kind of like, I can't remember the old guy's name, but the old guy on Shawshank ends up hanging himself because he can't deal with life outside prison. You know, just like a maybe 5 to 10 minute scene on just how people who have gone through that, you know, like the J.C. Dugards, people who are held captive for a decade or more, showing how they have to adapt to society after losing that much of their life at such a young age. I think that would have been a more powerful, better ending than a twist. The twist almost felt forced. And again, I don't really know what that very ending with hearing him do something to drive away is supposed to say. But I do like how very low-key this film is. We're rarely outside the house. It's mostly just these two actors, which again, I think did very solid performances. I believe the guy that played Rabbit was a very traumatized, malnourished guy. This D'Onofrio is a very intimidating, creepy, which, I mean, we've seen him in a ton of stuff. He can play a creeper. You know, you buy that he's like this kind of serial killer. Accent wasn't necessary. Don't really, I'm guessing it was just there to, you know, cover the scent of the twist. But I thought this was a very effective, well-done psychological thriller. And again, it very well shot. For $700,000, it looks great, very well shot. it is kind of a slow burn, but with character studies like this, especially psychological thriller character studies like this, it's going to be a slow burn, but it uses its time wisely. Again, I would have traded some material for other stuff. I also would have traded the twist for more of like some look at the aftermath. But I still think this was a very effective, well done film, especially for how little money went into it and how, you know, low tech it was as far as people behind it backing, uh, and the daughter of David Lynch. So there you go. I actually really liked this movie, Chained. Highly recommend it. I already said spoilers, so if you tuned out, you probably already seen it. But I really liked this movie, and it's free on YouTube. So if you're still watching, go check it out. Thank you for watching.